Good evening, Patrick here, 8 Questions with, and welcome to the show. It is a beautiful night here in southeastern Michigan. Um, I think that is really what's been going on with us lately. I think we have been going on when everybody is still outside enjoying the sunshine. But we are glad to have anybody who's here with us today because we get to talk to rising actress and novelist Ashley Hargrove will be here. Hargrove. I always want to say with an S on the end of it, and I know that it's not. So there you go. So Ashley Hargrove will be with us in about 15 minutes or so. Looking forward to meeting her, and glad you guys are going to be here along for the ride. Um, yeah. I guess the first piece of business I should do is thank. Once again, I want to thank Tom Zembek and Brian Katz and also JoJo for a great night last night. We got to talk to Tom and Brian about the relaunch of Anchor Bay Entertainment, plus their other companies that go underneath Umbrella. Really cool gentlemen. Learned a lot from them. It's very interesting to be able I mean, I know a lot of, like I said, I know a lot of people came probably looking for the big collecting news and new releases and all that, but I was more interested in how they got it up and running. And because it's a tough market right there. It's a tough market. They're coming in brand new, no catalog, no help from Lionsgate there. Uh, Um, but um, but yeah, but they're going to be open. They're going to launch their own movies out. There's going to be some good ones coming out. Abrupto sounds really cool. The dinner with Leatherface also sounds really cool. A documentary. I think it's pretty cool. Two good ways to jump it off. Um, the one Abrupto has a absolutely stone cold cast. That cast is fire. Plus, it took the gentleman 8 years to make his movie, and you already know I'm going to put a feeler out there and see if he'll come talk about it with us. You already know that. I'll be making a feeling out to him and see if he wants to come over and talk about it. Hey, Jaden. Hey, Stephen. How are you? Hey, Stephen Chang. How are you? Um, that would be great because I've already tried that, Stephen, like 10 times. I've never gotten anything from her. I talked to Cammy. That was a lot of fun. But Kim has never showed any interest. But that happens, right? Sometimes you reach out and it doesn't feel right. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I had a guest who I approached and I asked for an interview and I didn't get it for an entire year. I didn't get it. I did land it at the end, but at the time I asked, the guest said that it just wasn't the right time. But if you can get Kim, I've always had the door open for her to come on in and hang out with us. I would love to talk to Kim very much. And Steven the Horror Freak 85. Hopefully the weather is going well in Florida. And speaking of Florida, it is our friend Katie from Popping the Popcorn. It is her birthday today. It's her birthday, so I should have you guys do something. I'm gonna do this. You guys all, and I will be checking. And if you guys don't do this, I'll blow you up. I'll shout you guys out. But be really cool though if you guys don't mind. I'm gonna go ahead and well, you're gonna have to hold on to that thought because the doorbell just rang, and you know how it goes. Whenever the doorbell rings, that we go get our guest instantly because we do not like to make anybody wait. So thank you all who are coming in early, and please help me welcome in actress and novelist Ashley Hargrove. And here we go.
Hey,
Greetings.
how we
Uh,
doing?
for Virginia, right?
No, I actually was born in Virginia.
I know. That's why I said on Virginia.
Ah,
Um,
I'm just trying to figure out why I got a cat picture at the top of my thing.
that right there is the guardian cheetah. He is the cheetah and have cheetah worldview.
Oh, for a second, I thought it was my own cat because I've got 3 cats and one of them looks exactly like that. So I was like, did I put something up and didn't know it?
No, that is actually he is a hybrid. He's a part British short. I have no idea how it happened, so I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a geneticist, but it's half British short hair, half cheetah.
Ah, it's a cutie. And
He
sorry, I'm just
is.
trying to adjust my lighting on you so I don't look like I'm too shiny.
Are you currently still based in Virginia?
No, I am down in Huntsville, Alabama right now, but we film between like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and then I was out in Nevada for the Skate to Hell part. So I kind of go around in a few areas for filming.
Yeah, wherever the work takes you, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's easier to keep it close to here only because then I don't have to worry about trying to pack up everything. But I've been branching out more, so it's about time.
Um, I never really thought about that, but but now that you're here, I know this question will come. It's just come to me, and I'll let you be the first person to answer this. Do you have like if you're a doomsday prepper, you hear the term a bug out bag, like we got to get out of here. Um, you know, we got to get out of here for the bombs come. Um, do actors do that too? Do you have like a work bag, like in case you get called up, let's say you audition for 20 parts and you get called
It,
for 12. Do you have a bag ready to go to
it's partially ready, partially ready. Like it's got a huge stack of like journals and notes and everything. So it's full paper crap basically. But it at least has a stack of what I know to grab. And then I do have like a little what do you call it? Like a little hygiene bag that already has a couple of things in it. So that way they're just shoved out of the way and I don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, I never thought about that until right now. It's like, I always wondered about that. Do actors have a bag that like when they get a call, like sometimes you hear that. You'll hear like sometimes they'll get a call in the middle of the night, or they'll get a call when they're, at work or whatever, and all of a sudden it's based off an audition or a part, and they say, "How soon can you get here?" And you think about that, and you're going like, "Yeah, how soon could you get there if you had to go?" If you had to be there. So do actors have those the bug out bags with them, like everything to go, like jump in the car and see you later.
I, I've had a few of those moments, but I've been pretty lucky where they normally will give us at least a couple weeks notice. But I think the shortest notice I had on something before was I think 3 hours, and it was a 2 hour drive to a location I'd never been to. So I basically tossed down the phone. I was like, "All right, see you, bye." Shot home and grabbed
Exactly.
everything and ran.
Man, that's good. Is that more stressful than waiting the 2 weeks? Knowing that you have to be
Oh
there in 2 weeks, you have to be ready for the part in 2 weeks, or is it more stressful knowing that you have to run?
more stressful to run. It was also like the same when I was outside of Knoxville one time filming on a week long project. We were doing a series of educational videos for someone, and we had 5 days of filming back to back to back. And we were given 60 pages of script to have done in under a week flat. So we were hiding like pages everywhere with all the time crunch. You literally would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, be prepped and through makeup by like 7:30 ish, 8 o'clock, and we would hide our script pieces like inside fake computers in the scenes, or we'd shove them under the coffee tables. We were pushing them up on sleeves on people because it was that short of notice to try to get it all crammed in. So, yeah, I'd rather have that few weeks to try to get something done.
I think the funniest story I ever heard about someone have to do that, but the lines. Well, actually, two stories. I remember once they said that Marlon Brando had to read his line where Superman. If you watch the first Superman movie, and he was talking to Kal-El in his crib, and he had his notes on there because that's So when you see him, the way they filmed him looking down was actually him looking down, reading his script. And then the other one I thought was really hilarious was Donald Faison. He had to read this script off a car, off a dashboard. He didn't, and a box of blueberries.
Blueberries.
No, I think
I mean, you gotta hide them.
right. How hard is it? Let's get back into let's go back before I get really deep into it. I saw you were born in Virginia, and you've been at this for a little while, and you're also a published novelist as well. So that's a quite a skill set. So what came first for you as a youngster?
Oh,
Did writing come first for you, or did acting come first for you?
I think it was probably theater first. I was about 5 years old when I really wanted to get into acting, and I started theater back when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And somewhere around there, I started kind of just, we had to write essays for school at the time. They let us do story ones at least. So, but definitely, I think the theater came first. And then finally, it was in my late 20s that I started getting into regular acting. I took like 2 breaks in between, but it was definitely acting first for the theater, then to the writing, and then into regular acting right afterwards, and then back to writing. And now it's combined.
Regular acting. Oh, I know some theater people that they might say, "What was that?"
Well, when I define it as regular acting, it's besides my social anxiety kicking in and things come out weird. It's basically like one's theater and one's on camera. So that's how I'm looking at it, like one's camera,
Well,
one's theater.
don't worry, we got you covered. Yeah, though, some people, it to me, it's actually been reversed. I've heard people say it reversed, like theater is the real acting, and making movies is not. Because you're so in the moment in the theater. You're out there.
I
You
I
rehearse.
I have some theater friends that they truly I've watched them where they'll get full blown into that character when you're on stage in front of people. Yeah, it'll get you for that minute.
Uh, so how did you get into it at 5 years old? I mean, was it something you wanted to do? Do you remember wanting to do it, or is it something your mom
Um,
wanted you to do?
I was when I was 5, I remember just watching, like, movies, and they told me my imagination was basically crazy. It was, like, overrun imagination, and just watching movies, I thought it was just interesting, the way these people made these characters come to life, and then when I was about 8 or 9, our elementary school started putting on, like, plays and stuff, and I was just like, "Okay, why not?"
It's a kid. As a kid, you really don't think about it as a kid. You get on the stage, and the teacher will give you a little bit of lines, and it's funny how as a small child, you're able to remember the lines. You're able to remember your lines, but then as you get older, like in high school or what have you, it becomes a little bit more of a struggle. And then you get to
Yep.
the adult, and then sometimes it's even more of a struggle. Of course, it has to do with the depth of the material, but still, it's pretty darn impressive as a 5-year-old to be sitting there and given like a 2 or 3 paragraph, of why a carrot is better than lettuce. Um, I mean, because most school plays are about Christmas or
Vegetable
the farm.
and vegetables.
Right, right. Um, so acting came first for you. Were either of your parents, were they artists as well? Did they
Uh, no,
perform?
not really. I think my dad may have done some theater, but he had done like some drawing type stuff growing up, but he was military. And then my mom, she was a waitress and did some management stuff. So they weren't like, it wasn't really their thing, but they definitely, they loved, the art, pushing art. But I couldn't get into like TV and commercial movies at a young age because they wanted us to have, normal childhood is how they put it, because that would have
Right.
been a running line if you really got into it a lot. But I was at least able to do theater. But I think it was in my 20s that I realized why they kept it that way, is because when you run from one set to the next, or you had amount of times where you'd be there for 18, 20 hours, it about knocked you off your feet. Although I know kids wouldn't be there for that long at least.
Um, Based on your own experience, Ashley, based on your own experience, I've been hearing a lot about the Nickelodeon. You have too, I'm sure. The crisis happening in Nickelodeon, and all the different things that are happening there. Uh, and we heard some past stories. Most of the Disney kids that star for Disney, they've always had their problems. It's very rare that a Disney kid ever escaped from being a Disney kid to having a normal life. um if your child wanted to start knowing the business as you do now, as a mom, would you let your kids do it, or would you wait for them to be like mature enough? and and teach them to be sharper, than as a child actor. Would you let them get into the business, or would you hold them off a little bit?
I think you would have to be like a certain age at least where they're old enough to understand what they're doing and then let them try it like once so they could actually see, the difference in it. Because I've actually met a few parents where they wanted their kid in it and you could tell the difference when the kid actually truly enjoyed what they did versus kids that that don't. But I think I would let them try it once just to see if they like it. And if they don't, it's like, okay, you did it. You tried.
Right. Um, so what was the first thing that you remember acting in? I mean, do you remember the play that you acted in when
Uh,
you were?
if it was theater, the very first one was, I think it was called Pinocchio Don't Smoke or something like that. It was about Pinocchio was in school and he got peer pressured into smoking. So it
Oh,
was a
okay.
play about Pinocchio smoking a cigarette and he learned the consequences from it. And I was one of the student friends of Pinocchio that had to read like all of his homework to him and tell him what he had to do. So that was definitely different, but I remember that was the very
Yeah.
first play that I at least remember doing.
So you come out. Hello, Katie. Hello, Jen. How are you? And then Jen, can you see the chat? Okay.
Let's see. Yep, now I can.
Let's see. Our friend Katie's birthday today, so we're all saying happy birthday to
Happy
Katie.
birthday.
Hi,
You don't want me
Jen.
to
How are
sing,
you?
trust me. I'll be off key.
Oh
I
my
get
gosh.
shy singing.
Yeah, I think YouTube would kick me off if I did it. Then of course you have parents who want it and want their kids to want it, but the kids don't. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
I've worked with a few kids on set before that had that.
they
Because
don't
you
really
could
want to
tell the
be there,
difference,
but
like, the kid would actually be crying off
oh,
they would actually be crying off to the side. I've watched in between takes, and the parents would be telling them, "No, no, you're fine," and I'm just like, "Okay."
wow. Well, that's gotta be as an actor, that's gotta be really hard, because you're sitting there. Maybe you're doing it. Maybe you're playing the child's mom. I mean, this is act to me. It's like that's like some elevated acting is needed because here you are. You're sharing a scene with someone who really doesn't want to be there, and then you got to carry that scene and make it work. Is that the hardest part and not just a child actor too, but an adult actor? Let's say they're just having a bad day. They don't want to be on set or they're not happy with their part or any other issue. And you're there, you're their scene partner. How do you overcome when someone's not bringing their A game or even the B game to the set?
If it's a little kid and they're, like, 4 or 5 years old, a lot of times I would just try to go like, "You just wanna do the fun that I'm doing?" I'm like, "Just do what I do." I'm like, "If you like what I'm doing, do the same." Or my favorite was, this little kid was very adamant about Santa Claus. So I was like, okay. And I hated doing it, but it was the best way to help them when they were upset. I was like Santa's gonna be watching later. I said, come on, you want to make Santa happy? I said, impress Santa. So that actually was a trick I used for a little 4-year-old, and it helped, make them smile. And another way I tried with them is like, the faster we do this, I'm like, faster you get to go home, relax, prop the feet up. I said, in between, we can play Game Boy or something. Cause I'm an old school child. So I bring Game Boys and Goosebump books with me to set half the time, which I still kind of do sometimes.
Yeah, that's gotta be really relaxing, isn't it?
I'm an old school person. If I'm not reading a script, if I'm not reviewing notes for production on a laptop, then normally I have like books shoved into my bag. My husband says I have too many toys and old school kid books right now.
Do you use that time when you're in between, or is it too short? But do you ever use that time in between shoots or shots, I should say, to do any creative writing?
Yep, I have, because I know I'm constantly writing. I know there's like 5 more scripts that are set already and done, just going back through editing, because we're gonna be pushing those out, and then those get turned in, and then plus the books, that get turned in as well. So I'm constantly writing. My only other thing, if I can't be playing a Game Boy or writing or going over a scene with somebody, is I would probably be taking a nap somewhere.
Mm,
I
right.
have done that. If you get there at like 3 o'clock in the morning, you are definitely napping somewhere off on set where they can't see you, and you're getting that last like 10 minutes of peacefulness before everything kicks in crazy. Because the longest film day I had before was a 20-hour day. So yeah,
Mm.
that nap was definitely my best friend.
So let's go back though again. I keep jumping ahead. I'm sorry about that.
You're
Um,
good.
so
Oh,
after you entered high school, did you act in high school as well? And when did you pick up the creative
I
writing?
I did some plays because the area I was in, you couldn't really do a lot of like film or anything, but I definitely did plays. I was a Southern Snow White that steals the men of other princesses. So that was one of them I did. Um, I think we did Dial M for Murder, where I was the lady that gets murdered. We also did a play about high school students with zombies breaking in, and we had to do the thriller dance at the end. And then we did one about called Parlor Games, where this guy decided to have his own wake because no one ever came to see him. So he made his own wake, and we had to actually, go to his fake wake and interact with him. And he was constantly jumping in and out of a coffin that they made for his scene. So I remember and I was a mime. I did a mime for a play. That's right.
Oh, that
So that was
that must
different.
that must have been hard learning the lines for that.
I mean, it was took so much time. I didn't know what to do.
I guess that would have been your first improv though, right? I mean, you're improving for that.
I would think so,
Mhm.
probably. I know I was doing some writing, but I know one of the old computers lost some of my work. It was called Music of the Ghost. It was about this house that was supposedly haunted with the lady's ancestors from like the 1700s during the Revolutionary War. And the story would jump back and forth between what happened, to cause the haunting up to the time period of the people being haunted then that lived in the ancestral home. So I was definitely writing for a while. I think the first book was out at 20. And then when I started really getting into film, I think it was probably about 25, 26, somewhere right around there.
What was the first thing that you remember about your creative writing? I mean, do you remember what it was? I mean, was it?
If you don't count like school papers or the ones that just didn't get out, the very first one would have been called Beneath the Water's Calm. It was about a girl that was about 18 or 19 years old that her mother just died, so she went to go live with her father and brother in a fishing town. I had been going through the perfect storm phase of the movie with George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg. For some reason, I loved watching it. So I wanted to have something based out of that area. So I actually researched like all the boats and everything, looked up the city, and I actually contacted some police officer friends of mine of how they actually did like handle certain crimes possibly in the area. But yeah, she went out to live with them, and someone died. And of course, you had to learn: did she do it? Did somebody else do it? And of course, there's that lovely twist. Ashley's real last name. My last name Hargrove. There's a couple names people actually know me by. Coughlin was my original first acting name. It was my original married name before I got married this time, which this is my final marriage. I tell the hubby that all the time. Then when I got divorced, to went back to Hargrove, which is my maiden name, and I decided to keep that as my stage name. And so if you ever see Osborne, that is my legally married name at this point. It's just Hargrove. I decided to make it easier on everybody and just keep that. Stranger Things, I haven't watched a whole lot of it, but I have heard good things about it.
I've never even watched it.
I think I saw an episode or two. I think when they said Robert England was in there, I was like, yay!
Yeah, I was getting excited for it, because I actually owned the first two seasons, and I was getting excited. And then they're like, then the delay would happen, and then now they're sitting there saying, "Well, we're not going to make it for the next 2 years." I mean, I don't know about you, but but let me ask you, if you were a creator, I mean, because a lot of people realize that it doesn't take, a movie or a TV show. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you shoot the movie,
Yeah.
you shoot the movie in January. A good movie will not come out until about a year afterwards. But it's still got to be sort of frustrating to sit and wait for it, especially if it goes beyond, a year. If it goes there and it's like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? I mean, even though you hopefully you've gotten paid for it, you've gotten, you did the role, it's completed, it's in the can. You have nothing more to do with it. But at the same time, you really do, because you invested so much time and effort of yourself into it. Is it hard? Is it frustrating to wait for a movie to come out that you've done?
Yep, because there's even some that will never come out that they'll get shelved or your scene gets cut, something gets scrapped, or there's delays. I've seen them. I know there's even a few I put out where every blue moon, you have a delay on something. And if you don't ever get to watch it, it's even worse. Because then you're like, how bad did I do? They're like, did I do good? Did I do bad? It's like, I just want to see one time. But
I've heard
definitely waiting in between gets you.
I've heard actors that have reached out to a project that maybe it has hit a dry spell. Maybe they run out of money or what have you. But the actor, performer, has done such a good job in it that they want to go out there and get their part sent to them, for their new reel. Um, is that protocol or do you know if is that a proper thing to do to a producer? Let's say the movie hasn't come out in a year and you ask, hey, it hasn't come out in a year, can you give me the clip of my act, of me and my scene, so I can put it into my reel? Or do you have to just be patient and just wait it out?
I generally try to be patient. It's like I understand there's going to be things that happen. Now, if it gets to like probably 2 years, I try to find subtle ways to gently poke, and just like, hey, just curious, when's that premiere or something like to that degree to figure it out. But most of the time, if I know it's just something happened, I just quietly let it go and just watch the emails and just cross my fingers that they didn't forget me somehow.
Yeah, because I would think that it would be really hard to get up there and you got a good drama going, a good comedy, and you go out there and you just knock it out, and you know that you've done really well with it, and you go there. That's cool. Actually, I'm impressed with myself. It's like I did a good job. The director says that's a great, it's a great piece, and then you have to sit and wait on it, and then it doesn't happen. It's just like, and you have to wait 2 years. It's 2 years removed from when you did it, and then you're putting that on your reel, and people see it, and you go like, well, that was 2 years ago. It's sort of like, oh man, if I just would have had this in a year instead of 2 years, it might have gotten me some jobs. It's a tough business, isn't it? Sometimes.
It is, and especially if your appearance changes massively during that time period, or if your skill set changes. Because I know for myself, like in the past year, I've dropped almost 50 pounds, and then my hair's been cut. Color's been updated, and some things I did wigs and everything. So when you're going up and down on it, half the time they don't know. They're like, that can't be you, and I'm like, nope, that is.
Well, congratulations on the weight journey. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, Now all this is happening. Now your husband's in the military. Now, did you have to move around with him, or were you always stationary?
It was my dad that was a military, but my husband did do military contracts at one point. He is a chemical physicist. So when he goes on his trips, mostly he's pretty much all by himself. Although I could probably go one or two trips with him, but I think he probably enjoys that quiet time where it's like, oh, I'm good. Bye.
Yeah, I was gonna say military contracts might as well just be almost full service now. I mean, because the military has been changing. Um,
But
so
yeah, him and I
so
wouldn't have lasted in the military. I have a lot of military family. I give everybody props that does military, but I know 100% him or I would have failed miserably and just
mm,
been kicked out. I would have been huffing and puffing on the field, just like, I'm coming.
yeah, yeah, my dad was a Marine, so I totally can relate. Let me go back. So, how old were you for the very first job, as far as acting job outside of a theater?
Um, if you start with just background, I think when I did background, the very first one would have been ABC's Nashville, because they shot that out of Nashville at the old Montgomery Ward's building that's still there, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
Um, it was like a factory or a warehouse. It was a warehouse of some sort where they delivered stuff. So we shot there. And the same first week, I was also running back and forth to the Novitiate. It was right around that time whenever they shot that one. So there were days where I'd be on the Nashville set for 20 hours. And since I was still waiting tables, because background didn't pay a lot, I'd quickly run home, work a couple hours, and jump back on the road and shoot straight back up to Nashville to go jump on the Novitiate that was filming right in the same area. So those were the first two main ones. Speaking wise, I know the first couple ones you just kind of volunteer your way through unless you get that big break in the beginning.
Right.
Paid ones, they came a little later. I can't remember when. There were some breaks in between, but I know like commercials were the first ones I started doing more because I did like office commercials, some type of Dollar General one at one point, another one for Half Pops where it was this half baked popcorn, and it was the apocalypse time, and we were trying to save the world with half popped popcorn, and I was one of the hackers involved in trying to save everybody.
With popcorn.
Yep, half pop popcorn. We were trying to save the world.
You know what? I've seen it saved with less. Let me go to my chat real quick. I'll catch up real quick here. People say they love
Oh, notary word.
yeah, they love Stranger Things. Thank you, Betty, for that. Yeah, we're trying to do a poll here. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. Thank you all for coming in. Okay, Jen wanted to know if your last name was a nod to Stranger Things. That's
Yep,
a
that
good
one.
question.
We'll get to that one.
That's a good question.
I should
Stranger
just
Things
tell everybody it is. Just go with
yeah,
that from now
you know
on.
what? I would go with it too. You can use it. Stranger Things is fantastic. I'm glad they're taking the time. The break they were forced to take due to COVID to wonder for the writing and the story. They're able to take their time and perfect it. Let's see. Everything. It's everything. Hello, Al, our
Military,
friend Al is
Nashville.
here. And congratulations, Ashley, on your journey from Jen. And also,
Thank
please tell please send our gratitude to your hubby for assisting our military. Yeah, military contractors are very important.
and the
The bat
Montgomery Ward moments. I remember
the bat
those.
is here. He says he's been to Nashville once, had a great
Billy
time.
is my husband. Sorry. Oops.
Let's see. Actually, no, you can't use the last name because Billy is my husband. Who's
I
Billy?
already have fun confusing everybody when I tell them Osborne. They're then like, "Who's that?" I'm just like, man, this makes it so much more fun.
I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to catch up. I think I'm gonna have to catch up because I feel like I'm totally lost in this conversation all of a sudden. Al saying went through Stranger Things Horror Nights house. It was cool, even though I had no idea what was happening. Um,
Sounds like a friend of mine.
I'm totally lost. Hey, Motion, how are you? Fine singer songwriter in the house.
Apparently, there's a character in Stranger Things whose last name is my last name.
Oh, okay. Oh, I have no idea. I'm totally lost. I'm gonna have to do something about that.
I don't know
I
the
don't.
last names either. If it helps.
Uh, but you should use all three last names.
I try not to use Coughlin anymore. That one, it's like you'll see it on the IMDb in some areas where it'll say as Coughlin.
Right.
And then when I managed to get them to switch it, but that's at least a few of it. But mainly all the acting stuff is now under Hargrove officially. If they see it under Osborne, there's got to be something going on. If they see it under Coughlin, we really got to talk.
Okay. What made you? What was the thought? What was the thinking behind changing your name? Just become, just to get an acting name and to protect your privacy.
It was a mix of everything. Like my first marriage was under Coughlin, and when I divorced, I wanted to really separate from that. So that's when I came off of that, and I went back to my maiden name. And by the time I got remarried, I decided to keep Hargrove for a couple of reasons, even though Osborne is marked as my tripping on my tongue here, my legal name on paperwork, you'll see it as Osborne. But it gives my husband a little bit of privacy because acting and writing, it's not his thing. So I try to keep that for him because if you find him on social media, it's extremely rare. So pretty much no one knows when he's there.
Right.
And that people had gotten used to seeing Hargrove as my film name again. So at that point, I was like, there's no point of changing. I'm like, if everyone's starting to see all the work under that name. So I just like, okay, we'll just keep it that way.
Now, what name do you write under?
It's been under actually two of the names, but I'm putting all the writing under Hargrove from here on out to make it easier.
Okay. What was it like for the first time? What was more surreal to you? Your very first time you were on a movie set, or the first time you published a story?
If it was like the Nashville TV set, seeing the size of those very expensive cameras, that was the first thing. I was staring those down like these are not your regular little camcorders that we, would hold. Because at that time I still owned a VHS camcorder,
Right.
and
Oh, okay.
I was like, what is this big thing? And this camera was so big, they had three people that would operate it, someone that would sit on a little seat behind it, another person that would be behind them pushing carefully, and then another one that was in front of them guiding them to make sure they didn't, go in the wrong area. And I'm just like, holy cow. And someone's like, that's like a couple $100,000 camera. I was like, okay, I'm going to
Mm.
stay far back.
Oh, yeah. Were they still shooting on film back then, or was this when they had switched over to digital? I
I
think it's
think they
probably
had
film.
just gone to digital, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the other surreal moment was there was a project I did at a studio once where I got one of them. I had my own dressing room, and I was just staring at it. And I'm like, "This room, this mine?" They're like, "Yeah, that's your room." I was like, "I can
Wow.
go in?" They're like, "Yep." And there was another project I did in Knoxville where I actually had a PA for the day, and I was just staring at
Oh,
them strangely. And they're like, "Well, this person's yours for the day." And I'm just looking at them like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "They're
oh,
going to get you whatever you need." And they're just like, "What do you need?" I felt like that Flintstones movie moment, where John Goodman, she asked him, she's like, "What would you like?" He's like, "Coffee." And she's like, "How you like it?" And he's like, "In a cup." And when they asked me what I wanted, I was just like, "Water." And they're like, "How?" I'm like,
in a
"In a
cup?
bottle?" It's just like, in a bottle.
Wow, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. That would be a surreal moment for sure to have your own personal PA for on the shoot. Um, so what's it like being an actor in Virginia? Was there, was there a thriving community there, acting community there, or or did you find one when you moved, like Huntsville? I know Alabama's pretty much in the middle, by Georgia, Florida, Louisiana. Is that a good central place to be, or if you had to go, or was Virginia better?
Virginia, I wouldn't know because I was still really little, but I've heard they're getting some things there. Now, Alabama is starting to build a little bit. Like they've shot a couple of decent things in Huntsville, and then one of our projects, we're shooting part of it here and the other part in Georgia. And a lot's done down in like Mobile, Birmingham. They're starting to build up in those areas, but the tax incentives are not high enough quite yet, but they're really trying to push them. But it's in a good area at least where you can travel to like Tennessee. You can go over to Georgia pretty fairly easily. You can go, of course, anything that's in the Panhandle area, Florida, or even up to Kentucky for some work. Because I think
Yeah,
for me, the hardest part is if I have to fly out for stuff. Because the husband asked that we don't move. He's like, that's it. He's like, I don't care if you need to fly out. He's like, just don't move us. He's like, that's all I ask.
right, right. You mentioned that he really he supports it, but he's not really into it, right?
It's not his thing. He's a scientist, so I think he tried like modeling years ago, but he did a lot of moving around with his early contracts. But yeah, he's got a couple of PhDs in like chemical engineering and something math that goes way over my head. And it's like, I have no clue what it is. I saw it once and I was like, okay. I said, I'm done. He
Uh,
tried teaching me some of it, but I was so confused. I was just like, mm-mm.
that's
Like,
interesting
nope.
because you're such a creative person, and you meet a scientist. What was the Well, if you don't mind me asking, what was the spark between you guys?
It was actually his dating page, believe it or not. He had on one of them a velociraptor and then like a silhouette of a scientist, and it said something in regards that the dinosaur cha-cha'd away the poor scientist's money away from the family and ate the guy, and now the scientist was doing experiments, and I was just like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, but this is a good one.
So when you guys did your first, when you guys you made your first date, I mean, did he show any interest at all in the creative side? Did he talk about his own creative side with you? I just find it
Not
like
in the
you guys are
beginning,
so
but
different.
Not in the beginning, but we did go to an art festival for the first one. It was street fair because I was really nervous about dating somebody from offline. So I got the most public location I could get was
Sure.
a street fair art festival. So that way, just talk and walk a little bit to just see what it was like. But yeah, he's definitely not artsy type. He's more of he loves his computer games and he's like gung ho into superheroes. So if I ever got a part as a superhero, he'd probably be diving head first into that project, probably at that point.
So you got to think about doing that to him on April Fools. Come in dressed up like a superhero. Say, guess what, honey? And just watch and go, oh my God, she's in the MCU.
Well, when we went to a Comic Con convention, because I have some friends that were in one of them, and he met one of the guys that plays Superman. He knew everything about the guy, and I'm just staring at him. I was like, "You can't tell me much about my stuff, but you sure know Superman left and right."
That's cool though. That's all right. And our friend Steven says, so in a way, she's married to Batman. That's
I
an
mean,
interesting.
he
That's
could
interesting.
be.
Could
He
be.
could be.
Yeah. Model turned scientist sounds like a movie character. Yeah. You know what? I'm just trying to think of. I'm just trying to think of that. What superhero would come closest to her husband? Probably Hank
Uh,
Pym. Hank
for him,
Pym.
he claims Superman because that is like his screensaver on his phone is the Superman logo and everything.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you ever want to have fun with them, go in there, hack his computer, and put in Superman 4. I'll put the Superman 4 logo on his computer. No,
And
don't.
just put my head right there on top of it, right, to drive him
Yeah,
insane.
but don't do that. Otherwise, I'll get a call from your attorney. Um, wanting my ass. Superman 4 is like the worst superhero movie ever made.
He would just give me the look. He basically, if he saw something I did, he'd just go like,
Mhm. Does he ever
he
call
has
you
a
Lois?
certain look.
Does
Do
he ever
what?
call you? Does he ever call you Lois?
Not yet, but there should be a day I should do that to him just
Mhm.
poke at him and see if he'll do it.
So let's talk about you. Did you undergo any formal training, other or just practical?
I did kind of a mix. I had 2 years of theater training just so I could get used to just being able to talk to people and basically kind of look through them when you're delivering lines because I have a strong social anxiety. So a lot of times it's easier for me to talk to people through computers and stuff because then you can't really see everything. But I did a couple of years of theater training, and then I think I did 4 years of acting classes. I did some voiceover training, improv training. So I kind of had a mix, and then I did stunt class training. So I have done stunts, and currently I'm in trampoline gymnastics. So I do a mix of everything, but some people get in there without any training at all. But I think you have to have at least a little bit just to get used to being around cameras. Because that was the biggest thing. Like my first time with a camera, I wanted to stare into it so badly. And you had to keep diverting your eyes just a little bit. And you're like, nope, don't look at it. And you feel your head slowly going back. And you're like, nope, don't look at it.
How hard is that?
For a while, it was hard, and I remember having to teach a 4-year-old how not to look at a camera. I had to plant myself as close to it as I could and go like, "Okay, me, yes, camera, bad. Me, good, camera, bad." And they're
Yeah,
like,
because
"Okay, you good."
it would just be to me, it would be so hard to walk in the room and knowing because I was actually watching a little note here. I was actually watching a clip on Instagram, and our a former guest, Alexander Nevsky, is shooting a new movie, a new western, and he showed a clip about the scene that he shot, and in it, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 people, plus his scene partners, and
Yep.
everybody's wrapped around, and I'm sitting there going like, how do you concentrate on what you're gonna do when there's so many people right on top of you?
There's a couple of things, and I think one of the hardest ones for me too, and you guys are gonna laugh, but I might as well get it out. One of my very first on-screen television national wise was a kissing scene. My
Mm,
character was actually called, it was in the screen credits, and it was either for A&E or something. My character was called College Makeout Girl. That
nice, nice, nice.
Yeah, and the funny part was when I was reading it, I was like, I'm like, it can't be too bad to try, but trying to tell other people what it was, I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, how do I tell my mom this?
And how many takes did that take you, Ashley?
Six.
Well, 6.
I know the exact amount. It was 6 takes until they
Uh-huh.
were, because they change angles each time, and they go like, okay, we're gonna hit this angle, we're gonna hit this angle. Um, and if you know the person, it's not as awkward, but I'd never met the person before. And the way I met him was hilarious. We were brought onto set, and they're making him look like a murderer. So I didn't recognize him from the picture they had showed me earlier. And he's just staring at me so creepy like, and he was just getting into character. And I'm just like, why is this weirdo just staring? He's like, you're number 6 today. And I was like, what? He's like, yep. It turns out he had to make out with 5 other girls that day. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, this is gonna be a long
Oh,
day. But
oh,
he was really nice though. But they bring you into the set, and then the director be like, all right, this, you're gonna do this. And they're like, we're gonna give you a couple minutes to talk, get to know each other. And they're like, and we'll be ready to go. And you're just like, room looks great. Okay. So we need to talk about this. And then I saw 2 questions there. 4 favorite
uh,
films. Ooh, 4 favorite films. I am a big movie junkie, so that. Now, are we going with a certain genres? Are we going like you
you know
want
what?
rated G, PG,
Go,
PG-13, rated R?
go with your 4 favorite films, no matter what the genre.
Uh Backdraft is one of them. Even though it has some cheesy lines, I really love the pyrotechnics that they used in it. I actually met one of the people that worked on that set years ago that actually helped do some of the fire scenes. So I got really into that movie because of that.
Okay.
Yep, kickboxing 5 years. I did. Backdraft is one of them. Let's see. I think Gone with the Wind, because I love the classic story of, it's just old, and the way they did for something that's almost 100 years old, I thought was rather intriguing. The original Poseidon Adventure from the
Oh,
1970s with Gene Hackman.
yeah,
That is one of my
Irwin Allen,
favorites.
the master
And
of
it also had
disaster.
Leslie Nielsen in it. He
That's
was the
right.
ship captain.
That's
And then
right.
it's kind of a tie from there with like 3 other films. American Werewolf in London, which I think was like 1980, right around there. And
82 maybe.
it was pretty close to it, somewhere right around 1980. Because I love the practical effects that they did with designing the werewolf face. That one I got really stuck on. Um, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because as cheesy and corny it is, you got to give it props to those clown masks that were shared between Ernest Scared Stupid and that project. It's just one of those ones you have to sit and laugh. You have to have that moment.
Let's see. Let's see. Ashley in her bag with Poseidon. Yeah. So, and that's
Towering
from
Inferno was
that's from
another good one from that time. Towering
which one?
Inferno.
Oh
The
yes,
Towering Inferno that came out around with Steve McQueen at that same time.
Earthquake. Earthquake came around the same time, and
There
let's
was
see,
a
there was
4th
one.
one.
The Swarm. Swarm
Yep.
came out. That was Irwin Allen. Yeah. And time ran out. That was his last one. No, that was about the volcano. Oh. See, I honestly laughed at Critters 2, which was done by the Chodio brothers. Yes. That's
We've all watched the cheesy ones for fun, and we've been in a couple of cheesy ones that we never tell people about ever again. It's like, nope, I
So
didn't do
well,
that
that's what
role.
we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, because I do want to talk a little bit about this new movie that you're in. It's going to be coming out that you're in, called Marriage Bites.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So you played Linda in it. Now, is that movie? It's getting ready to jump off, right? It's in pre-production, or are already shooting.
We're almost completely done with a pre-production. We start filming in November. All locations are booked. I think 95% of the actors are all set. We've started going over costumes. I've been working with the SFX team, which Tara, I'm giving you a shout out, darling. Love you. She is beautiful with all the bloody stuff, so she's taking care of us there. Um, some of us have been going over the script a little bit, just preparing, and it's going to be quite a fun cast because we have Joe Kamara, Win Reichert, Robert Lasardo, Darren Ewing, Riley Way Chase, and
You
Daniel
have
Emery
Robert
Taylor.
Lasardo. Have you met him
Yep,
yet?
I have not met him in person, but some friends of mine have. But I got to speak to him on the phone a couple of times, and he's a very, very, very sweet person.
And great actor too.
Oh yeah, and it's so strange when you speak to him on the phone, and he's like the sweetest, nicest person you'll ever talk to. And then when you watch the roles that he does, you're just like doing a double take, like, wait, this is him. It's like the same whenever I've done murder roles. People are just staring at me like, that was you? Mm-hmm. They're like that. I'm like, nope, that was me.
I'm the killer.
Voice work. I have done some cartoons. I did some what are they called? Like Lego action Scooby-Doo ones for someone before. I've done a couple of commercial stuff, but the voice, I can jump like, let's see if I can do a few of them. Or Honey Miss Family, nobody gets left behind. Mommy told me not to do that, but I promised not to do that. It's all right. We'll be just fine. We just have to concentrate. So yes, I've definitely done a mix of voices there.
What was it? You mentioned the cast of Marriage, and you get to work with a fun actress, Nicole Butler.
Yes, I love her. She's a darling.
Now, here's something you can tell her from me. Tell her I'm still waiting for her to play a femme fatale role.
She's probably going to see this later, so she's going to know you got that question.
I'm Nicole. If you're watching this, I'm still waiting for that femme fatale role. I keep telling her you'd be so perfect. The Black Widow, the woman that comes out, like seduces. Oh no, I can't do that. I can't. Oh yes.
Ooh, underrated movie. I just saw that. Ooh, that's a toughie. That is a toughie.
Well, what's a movie of yours that you've done? What 3 movies have you done so far that you think are the best? If I was going to introduce you, come. Here's Ashley Hargrove, and here's her catalog. What 3 movies would you tell us to watch that best represented you?
Even though this one I worked on it for 2 months, but I think our lines got cut if we had any, was The Novitiate, because we were trained by a former nun for 2 months straight. We shot that out in Nashville, and the lady that trained us, she had been married to the church for 40 years until she divorced and actually married somebody. So she was brought on to train us for 2 months of how to be nuns in the 1950s and early 60s. So definitely I would say that, because that was interesting getting to actually do all that. And I had my eyelashes dyed, which, by the way, don't do that. That hurts. So that would be one of them.
That would be a very hard role to play. Was that a very hard role for you to play?
Only when we went outside, because it was so cold outside. And that when we did one of our prayer scenes, because we had to wear these little like soccer pads on our knees for about 10 or 12 hours. And we had to stay on our knees for all the shots. And in between shots, you basically just fell over, because it was starting to hurt badly, but you had to stay up in that shot. But that was definitely one of them, I would say, because that was an interesting piece to do. It's a good question from there. I don't know. But definitely that one. When Skate to Hell comes out, I would say that one, because I played a nun again in that one.
Uh-oh.
So that was that. Yep. And then there was the Body Sculptor. I don't know if they can find or not. It had Terry Kaiser and Tiny Lister in it, where I played a meth head. So that was definitely an interesting role. I don't know if the piece stayed in it, because I only saw like clips of it later on. So, but that would definitely be one of them, because that was very intriguing, getting to play a drug addict where they actually did the makeup and everything. And I actually went out into a mall afterwards, because I was like, I don't feel like taking the makeup off. And it was kind of strange seeing how many people ran away from you quickly. It's just like, man, I'm like, makeup that good?
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen people in costume and they, makeup. They've gone to a store or whatever, and that's what they'll get reaction like that.
I'm still thinking about that underrated movie there. Happy Optimist.
Underrated. Well, let's talk a little bit about you, because you mentioned about Skate to Hell. How did that happen? How did that come about? That's a pretty
Um,
good cast as well.
I just
Also,
remember they had something out for it, so I reached out to Sean and put in. So ended up doing that. It was really fun. And so Sean, it was hilarious, man, especially in the location I ended up in. I won't give the location away, but I'd never been in that type of place before. And I was just like, this is a crazy place.
okay, so I have a question, and if he's watching this or Nicole's watching this, she can answer this question too. Does the Coodooter ever take off his hat?
Wait, which person? You'll have to help me
Sean.
there.
Sean.
Oh, Sean.
Does he ever
I
take
have
off
seen
his
him in
baseball
roles
hat?
without it before. I have seen him in roles without it, but when I was on set, I don't remember seeing him take it off. But some of his projects, you can actually find him without the hat on.
I'm gonna have to look. Yeah, but that's when he was a kid. You know, he was a child actor.
He has a picture on his page. I think it was from one of the clown motel movies that's coming out where there's one where he had the hat off.
Okay, I'll have to go look
So
at it.
there was one of them I noticed on the picture.
I was just looking at all the various pictures. I'm going like, you know what? Between his videos and the pictures that he does of the movies and everything, I don't think I've ever seen. And as far as an adult goes, I don't think I've ever seen him without a hat. And I was just wondering, does he wear that hat all the time?
It's like when people see me without the clip in my hair, like I wear it all the time. But when I go like to on set or something, or every blue moon I'll have it off for an interview, they're just staring like, you have hair? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's down to here. I'm like, it just stays out of the way.
Now, have you ever used any of your experience as an actress? Do you ever take any of the roles you play, or or not take it, but just inspired by it? Have you ever taken anything from your writing, from your movie roles and what have you, transferred it into your writing, like like making your character on a movie set, or your character, doing something.
There are some of them that do coming out that I'm working on where I actually do have a little bit of different sets I've worked on where I've been able to put that little bit in there because it's like, okay, I've seen this. Like even when I've been around dead bodies before, I had bits and pieces of that. But there was a story that I'm working on that actually is part on a set. So that would be a fun one. And by the way, I figured out the underrated movie. It is called The Abandoned. It's called The Abandoned.
Abandoned. Wow. Okay. Oh.
And it's not the one that had like Katie Holmes, but it came out as one of those 8 movies to die for. It was part of that series that they did, where this lady finds out that there's a house that was left for her from her parents years ago after their death in another country. And she goes to the house and she finds her long lost twin brother. Apparently they'd been both given up for adoption. And they get stuck in that house, and it's an interesting horror film. It's not like over the top, where all these ghosts are just popping out at you left and right, and slashers are running around. So it was definitely an intriguing one. So The Abandoned, I would say, is an underrated movie to watch.
Yeah, I know of Abandoned too. It was about the young girl who has to spend the night at she starts a job at an asylum, and she has to spend the night there. And it's her first night.
Movie that can't stand watching. Oh boy, are we talking about a movie that I've done or a movie that I've watched?
What's been the most difficult role for you to play that you had the hardest time doing, and the hardest time letting go of the character?
There was a couple. There was one where I actually played a stunt robot because I had stunt skills, and I was doing a dual role that week where I played somebody's really mean girlfriend, and they couldn't get the stunt person at the last minute to fill the suit of the robot. So I actually jumped into the suit, and that was hot as crud, and you could not sit down if you needed to relax. I think it was, by the way, 2015 for The Abandoned. If you wanted to relax, you either had to lay down completely or you had to stand against the wall. And if you lay down, people had to pull you back up. So that was definitely not easy. There was another project years ago where Jason Patrick's not in that Abandoned one.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. Who said that? The one Jason Patrick. Yeah, that's the one I have, Stephen. I have that one.
But yeah, so doing the robot was not easy because that costume, like I said, you had to have people pull you up if you wanted to lay down to get comfy, and it was extremely hot inside that suit. So that was definitely it was an interesting, fun film, but I was like, whoo, I can't
What
do
about
that part again.
what about character wise? What's
Character
been
wise, most difficult or ones that I would never do again.
do both? Do both.
I
What's,
think the
what's
hardest ones are pure murderers, especially if you get covered in all the blood and you have to kind of sink into the character. Because sometimes I'll slip into method acting if it's like a really dark character. And it scares the crap out of people sometimes because you're just sitting there staring off into space and they're just looking at you like, you okay? And you don't answer them because you're, trying to focus on being that character. Also, when I wore handcuffs and shackles for a project years ago, those hurt. Shackles really do hurt if you turn the
yeah.
wrong way. So that was definitely a hard one. And I think the other one, because I just hadn't gotten the groove of it, was more than kissing, but not quite, the top tier when you have the camera shoved on you and you're told not to move when they say freeze. Those are definitely ones where you're just like, this is too weird. But the blood scenes are bad, especially if you're covered for 10 to 12 hours in blood. Those are really bad. They're
What's it like?
fun.
What's it like? I mean, someone such as yourself who has a really bubbly personality. What's it like playing a killer?
It's really strange because I'm also really weird, I've been told, and they never hear me like curse unless it's accidental, and then they think the apocalypse is coming because I was raised really ladylike. But with the murderers, you curse, or you're suddenly these screaming evil type characters trying to stab people, or you're biting their neck out, and it kind of messes with you a little bit because you're trying to find that dark spot. But at the same time, it's a very intriguing role because you're trying to figure out, how do you take, like you said, a bubbly personality and turn it into this dark, messed up, twisted type.
Yeah.
So one of the tricks the director showed me years ago was was basically learning to catch people off guard. He put us in a scene where he's like, all right, it's like, I want you to start staring at the other actor for a minute or two. He's like, do not say a word. He's like, just stare at them no matter what they say. He's like, I'm going to get the reaction. I'm not worried about what they say. And I was like, you sure? Because I knew the actor, and I was like, he's kind of a friend of mine. He's going to think I'm really weird. He's like, I was like, to be fair, I'm weird. So I stared at him for like 2 minutes solid, never answering anything. And finally, he's like, okay, this is too much. He's like, I got to get out of the car. He's like, something's wrong with you. And the director yells cut on him. And he's just looking at us both, and he starts cursing. And I'm just like, sorry.
And our friend Princess here says, Patrick, I've completed the Holy Trinity of movie questions. This will be a regular thing. Yes, I understand it. I'm in for it. I don't mind those questions. I mean, and neither do guests.
Movie I don't like from any decade. Ooh.
Yeah, I like to know
Behind the
who some
Wall
of
of
your
Sleep and Look Who's Talking 3 was definitely too much. And if you go too far into the Beethoven movies or
For
Home
what?
Alone 5, I think it was Home Alone 5 where they completely messed up the script. It was too much.
Are you talking about
Is
the worst
where
movies you've seen?
I think it was Home Alone 5 that I couldn't stand. The reason why was Kevin McAllister's character comes back, right? And they have another kid that plays him, which is completely understandable. It's like 20 something years later. But they made it where he only had like one brother and the parents were divorced. And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, if you're going to keep the Kevin character and part of his family, I'm like, don't destroy it that badly.
No. I don't know what that is. They always
Very
do
nice.
that. They always come back off of a family like that, and for some reason, they always feel like they have to, just join them out, just to break them apart. And it's like, why do you feel like you have to do that? Why can't anybody have why can't there be a happy family 20 years from now?
Now the happy families that kill me though watching the movies is when like the dog or cat dies at the end. I am like a sucker for that. Like I'm just like bawling my eyes out. I was like, great, why can't I be on set crying like this on cue? And I'm crying just watching that dog that I know is perfectly alive in the movie, but they make it look like they died, and you're just like,
Oh,
that's it. I can't do this.
do you cry at movies then? I mean, the movies.
I have cried in a few before. And to do the crying, we have a couple different ways. Like you can kind of move your face a certain way to get it to go. I've heard of some people, worst case scenario, where they actually did like onions or they poked themselves in the eye, or even mascara wands I've heard. But mine is if I don't move my face a certain way, I'll think of something really sad. I hate doing it, but it forces me into that character to make me cry Pet Cemetery. Ooh, we talking about the remake or the original? That's the real
Um,
question. Which Pet
yeah,
Cemetery here? Because I remember the original Gage died and all of us were bawling, but
yeah,
then
but
in the
the
remake they
Gage.
had
What about
the
well,
daughter die.
yeah, but everybody talks about Gage, but what about Churchill?
Churchy made me cry a little bit, but when the cat became evil, I was just like, okay, fine. I'm like, cat's got to go. I'm like, that's it.
Hey,
We're done.
hey, every time they do something like that to a Stephen King book, they always get it wrong because Stephen King actually really adores cats. I mean, look at Cat's Eye and look at Sleepwalkers. That's just all that Stanley Kubrick fallout. Um, yeah, I mean,
Oh, dead animals. Okay, dead animals. Oh boy. We talk about if they're fully dead already, or we talk about when they're like dead coming back from the dead.
I guess they get buried in Pet Cemetery and they come back.
I actually rewatched Maximum Overdrive about 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
I had to.
I,
It's one of
oh,
those ones that even when the lines are cheesy and acting gets bad, even for the best of actors,
uh,
and hearing about behind the scenes where Stephen King admitted that he was kind of out of it the entire time during
yeah,
filming, you
he
still
was.
got to watch the film. It's just the fun one. You just got to sit there and watch.
Oh my God, I don't know what was more cheesier, Maximum Overdrive or the ads they had for it, where it shows Stephen King saying, "I'm going to scare the hell out of you," and it's like, dude, your mission accomplished because you already are. As far as the movie goes with Stephen King, where an animal dies, I definitely think the one that really gets me more than any one of his is definitely Cujo, which is
Stephen King he's in most of his films. I think he's in like 75% of his films as part of his contracts, if I remember reading correctly. Because like in Thinner, he's the pharmacist. Pet Cemetery, if I remember correctly, he showed up in. In Maximum Overdrive, he was the guy at the ATM in the very beginning with the hat, telling his wife that the machine is telling him to F off and everything. So I was like pointing
he
out
was in
each time I
Creepshow.
see him. Do what?
He was in Creepshow.
Yep, he
He had
played
a
the weird farmer that turned like into a plant when the
right.
he touched like a meteorite. Then he was also in Creepshow 2, where he was that truck driver of watching the lady blast past him in her car, after she'd hit the homeless guy. So he was that guy that was putting down the flares on the road. So I remember that one. So yeah, he shows up. He wasn't in the first Shining. I think he was
No,
in one of the remakes, but he
he
was
might have been in
not
the
in the
remake.
one with Jack Nicholson.
No, he wasn't in the same state as that movie was.
Yep, he was not in that
Um,
one, but I think he was in one of the remakes because there was like the miniseries version, and then they
he
did
might have
like
been in
another
Doctor.
one or something.
He might have been in Doctor Sleep. I have to double
I
check
think
that.
he was. I think
That's
he
the
was,
one.
but yeah, he's been in, I would say, probably 75% of the stories. He wasn't in Carrie. Because that movie, if you talk about the original Carrie, that one I've watched that one up and down there,
Oh gosh,
so I
someone
know
just
he's.
posted that today too. Our friend Corey, he just showed that today on his channel. He's watching. He had a copy of Carrie from Arrow, and he says still just as good as it was when the first time he watched it. I agree. I agree with that. What kind of movies do you and your husband watch? You guys watch movies together at least?
I I've watched like everything. His main ones are like superhero or action type because he does not like horror at all. So if I watch horror films, it's either he can't be in that room or he's got to have what he likes. We like to joke his wife-proof headphones on, and he can only see his computer and can't see the screen. So if it's a real cheesy horror film,
uh-huh.
if it's a
So
cheesy horror film like Shaun of the Dead, like he'll watch that because it's more comedy based.
right.
But we've seen like superhero stuff together, even though I'm not the biggest on superhero, unless it's Batman, the original Michael Keaton type style. I love those ones the most. But I would say some superhero stuff we watch, comedies. We definitely do a lot of comedies. I've been driving him nuts with 90 sitcoms right now, so the poor soul is suffering from my nostalgia.
What is it about? What is it about it that attracts you to watching them? Do you watch? How do you watch TV? Like I've asked this. I've asked this question before from actors. How do you, as a working actor, how do you watch TV and movies? Do you watch it as a fan, or can you watch it as or like how I would play that part. Are
Um,
you able to differentiate? Are you able to split the two apart, or is that hard now?
it's a mix. It's a mix of everything. If it's something I've never seen before, then I can actually really get into it because I'm just interested in just watching it overall, learning the story, just seeing how it is. But once I watch it probably like 5, 10 times in a row, then I'm starting to like, okay, this is how you could do this, or you start to find continuity things, or you'll see like where I think it was Braveheart, where that random car shows up in that scene. You're like, oh, there's the car. Or Jurassic Park. I love that movie, but you'll see that hand that's shoving the velociraptor tail through the door after a while. And that starts to happen the more you film, but you at least watch it once or twice where you can fully enjoy it and you're not worried about anything that goes wrong. Because no film is going to be perfect. That's just how it
No,
is. But you're
no,
there to enjoy the magic
it
and
is
get
funny.
into.
It definitely is funny when you have a major snafu like seeing a car in a movie. John Wayne had the same thing happen to him. One of his movies, there's a scene where he's riding with the cowboys and they're riding in the background. You can definitely see the car right there. It's so funny. Uh,
Or you see the person's leg sticking out of a dinosaur costume. I've seen that before, and I was just like, oh no, no, no. It's like no. It's like okay, that's
well,
bad.
well, if you saw Cats, you saw Judy Dench's butt. So there's that. So,
Or
uh,
my favorite is trying to hide our microphones. And if you ever rewatch yourself later, or you watch another character real close, I've been starting to play the microphone game now, where I'm go like, all right, where's the microphone hidden? I'm like, I know I'm going to spot it somewhere.
right. Yes, yes. Especially with
Because I've had mine hidden
especially
in crazy places. I've had one like taped right here between, so that one's really hard to hide. We've had them between our legs. We've had them buried up in
really.
collars. Oh yeah, like if you're wearing like dresses or bathing suits and things, they'll put them between your legs.
Oh,
And if
God, that's
there are ever
crazy.
certain blouses, they'll bring another person as the witness, as they like to call it. It's a regulation. So a lot of times they'll have another person with you, and they're like, all right, like I'm gonna tape this right here. And I'm just like, dude, I'm like, I've had every kind of tape ripped off at this point. I'm like, you're fine. Go for it. And they're like, it's our protocol. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I'm just saying, I'm used to it.
Have you
But
ever
the
worked
worst
on
I
Have you
watched
ever worked on a set where it's been a little bit iffy? I mean, like you've been a little bit weirded out by,
in the very beginning when I was first learning about things, and you used to find everything on Craigslist. Because I
oh,
have an agent that does some of it now for me. So that's the good part. She does the bulk of it. And then if there's anything that I find on the side, or a friend tips me off or something. But in the beginning, yeah, you could find a few things on Craigslist, but there was some where you were just like, what am I on? And you're just like, don't say a word. I think the worst one I ever did, it was a Craigslist one years ago. It was for a music video, and it actually came out as a real music video, but the team, I can't remember the like me what it was, but it was like a rap video or something. And they said they just needed some of us actors, for dancing. And I was like, okay, it's like I'd done some dancing. I was like, no problem. We get there and we didn't know that it was for a strip club scene. We were the strip we were the stripper dancers, and we all get there and we're just like, okay. So that was one of those iffy ones where I was like, I'm just gonna hide in the background of this, in the
right.
clothes on. And they're like, you don't want to get further up there. I'm like, I'm good. I was like, I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Now, you work mostly independent films. Are you SAG? Are you a SAG actress now? You mentioned you have
Saggy. I'm saggy, but our Marriage Bites is going to be another SAG project. A lot of my friends are either full SAG, FI Core, SAGgy, or they're independent line where they're completely non-union. So I've done a mix of all of them, where I've done indie films, I've done SAG projects and stuff. So I've had a taste of each one to see, what's better. It's just right now there's more non-union stuff coming through with everything. But yeah, Marriage Bites is going to be SAG registered because there's a couple of people I wanted for it badly that I've worked with before, but they can only do strictly SAG projects. So there was a certain tier level we picked, so that way it could include both non-union and also SAG and FI Core mix. So that way we were able to have a mix of everybody in it versus just, you had to rely on just this. Because not everybody can get to SAG. Sometimes they may not be able to find the project, or they may not be able to pay their fee yet. I mean, it could be a number of things.
now. We mentioned earlier. You're in a really good location right now in Alabama. Florida's popping. Georgia definitely is on the rise. I mean, it's been on the rise for a long, long time. Kentucky has had some
Yeah.
success. Louisiana, Mississippi, even Mississippi, there's been some really good
Yep.
filmmakers.
And voiceovers you can do from home now. I've got my own studio equipment. I think I can actually pull part of it over. I think. Yep. So I keep studio equipment from home. So if I get called for a voiceover, I just hop on that so I don't have to go in. So that makes it easy.
How do you like doing audition? You mentioned social anxiety. Does that extend to your auditioning process?
It can a little bit because in the beginning when you first did them, you weren't worried about trying to get them perfect. You were just trying to figure out how to actually work with the cameras. And then once you learn the full rules of what they actually expect in an audition, then it starts to become perfection. I know one for ABC that I did, it was 40 takes to get the audition done, 40 different takes. I think my average is like 5 now. Because you have your first one where you're just getting adjusted and trying to memorize whatever lines, or if you don't have time to memorize them, you're taping them in an area where you can see them, but the viewers can't tell. So it takes a little practice, but I can do them about 5. As long as I can slip into the characters right then I'm good. Now it's funny, if I do the audition on my own, I'm good. But if I have to have my husband, read lines off, I'm sometimes cracking up or nervous in front of him, where I'm just like, I may read something. I'm like, do I really want to read this in front of him? I'm just looking at it like,
Right.
oh.
How is he reading lines with? Does he understand? He understands why it's so important to you, right? So he goes in
Yeah.
and gives it his all. Good. That's
I
good.
wouldn't say he gives all, but he's starting to get more into reading them. Where one day I stopped him because he actually said, nope. He's like, stop, we're gonna do it again. I looked at him funny. I'm like, why are we stopping? He's like, I don't like how I read the lines. I just looked at him. I was like,
wow.
I was like, but they don't care how the reader's saying them. Like, they don't really want to hear the reader.
Yeah,
I said they may want to hear an edge view. He's like, well, I want to make sure it's good. I'm just like,
wow.
okay.
I wouldn't discourage that. I wouldn't
Well,
discourage that
it
at
was
all.
just so weird, because he doesn't, he's not into the film, but him doing that, I was just cracking up. I was just like,
No, hell,
we hear you, see you. He's like, I'm trying.
no, if he wants to do that and help you get a better performance, a better audition, but I'm rolling out the red carpet for that.
I think the ones that'll trip me up, though, is if I ever have to do any more of romantic auditions with them, those ones crack me up every time. Because I'm just like, you realize what lines you're saying to me. He's just like reading them like, oh, because you don't tell him the rest of it. You just give him a side.
Has he ever commented about any of the intimate scenes that you've had to do?
One of the biggest things with film is if you ever do intimate scenes is I believe 100% you talk to your partner before you agree to them. And that was something that I did with him before taking one on. Is I asked him, I said, if you're uncomfortable with that, I'm like, I'm okay with, turning this down, or if it's something I wrote, I'm like, I can take that out. He's like, no, he's like, I understand it's part of acting. He's like, I know there's the fine line between it. So that's the thing. So anybody that's on this, if you get into acting and you're with somebody, just make sure they're 100% on board with the intimacy scenes, because it's definitely different. I mean, and you have to also make sure the partners you're working with, you're comfortable with them as well, or else it's going to be just the weirdest thing ever. But yeah, we definitely had to talk about it. And he was just like, it's a character. I know. He's like, it's just part of the work. But have I done nudity to make him really uncomfortable? No, because I'm not ready to scare the world yet. If I could barely let my cat see me, then we're good for the time being.
I thought you had 3 cats.
We do. I think one of them's behind me actually somewhere. They're hiding somewhere. We have I had a dog at one point, but she passed from old age. We have 3 cats, 2 lizards, a hedgehog, and a tortoise.
A hedgehog. That's cute. What's the hedgehog like? What's the hedgehog like for a pet?
I call her my little prissy pincushion. They sleep all day, party at night. They're splatter wheel artists when they're on their wheels. They can sometimes be nice to you depending on their mood, but once they know you're the one that feeds them, like, oh, okay. But rest of the time they just like to sleep. They sleep.
Okay.
I saw a music question. Favorite.
Yeah. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? Favorite
I
artist to listen to?
listen to everything because whenever I write, I run a 1,700 plus song list, and it's everything from the 1930s up to today. I try to
Mhm.
appreciate every type of artist out there. Some of the newer ones are not as great as they used to be, in my opinion, but I still at least try to give them a chance. So, but yeah, I listen to pretty much everything. Now, if you wanted what was my teeny bopper years, that's your typical Backstreet Boys, NSYNC type stuff, because your parents were strict on what you were allowed to listen to. So it was very, very specific. Now, if you want something with no words, I am definitely a Kenny G or Lifescapes when I want something that's very relaxing and soothing. Those are definitely on there. But yeah, I listen to everybody because with writing, I want to have a massive playlist. I feel like a poltergeist is going on behind my head because that light keeps hitting a certain way.
When you write, isn't it better to write in silence, or do you like to write with music?
I like to have music because it makes, for some reason, it makes the characters come to life more for me, because I'm basically putting them to the music when I write. Like if I hit a horror soundtrack and I'm writing something scary, and it's like, okay, so you can picture this person running and screaming. If it's a romantic scene, when you have one of those little love songs from like Element or something on, then you're matching it to that. So for me, I definitely have to have music. I think my favorite one for writing, and you'll probably laugh, is from Fall Out Boy. It's called "My Songs Know What Your Songs Did in the Dark," and they put in parentheses "light 'em up." That one was always one of my favorites to write to. I don't know why. The beat kicks me into gear for writing every time.
Now, how many books have you had published?
Uh, Three, and I'm working on the fourth one, and I'm re-editing the first two. The fourth one coming next. We just did a book cover for it. It's called Holiday Chaos, where it's kind of like Hallmark in a sense, but it's got a little bit more PG-13 kind of holiday flair to it, where a lady goes home to help her family with all the Christmas and Thanksgiving. And of course, there's the romantic interest of somebody she knew. And that character, I kind of based him partially off of like Clark Gable, Rhett Butler style, because I love the way that Clark Gable would always deliver his lines in any movie that he did, where he had
Right.
that perfect little sarcastic flair, but still with a hint of witty at the same time. And of course, they go through every kind of crazy shenanigans with that. And there's another horror one that I'm writing as well. And then there's like a kind of a sad one. So it's a mix of everything at least coming out.
Are you a big classic Hollywood fan, Ashley? I mean, do you like you mentioned Clark Gable? Do you like the old
Uh,
actors, black
I
and
I
white
love a
movies?
mix of all of them, but for some reason, I think if you like my favorite all time, if you go classic wise, would have been Clark Gable. Would have been my favorite of his time. I always read that he was also a true gentleman with everybody, and that he was always very supportive of everyone. He wasn't known to be like a mean person or anything. So that I always just found was just one of those charms of his that you just wanted to have. And of course, a few of the ones that passed, Robin Williams was one of my favorites as well. I always loved just the type of improv that he could bring to his characters. He could just, because I remember some friends of mine worked with him on Boulevard, and they did a little video on set where he just suddenly went over to them and just started like doing an impromptu rap song with them, a comedic one. So my friends showed me that one, and we went to one of the premieres. He couldn't make it, but they were there, and all of them were just talking about it. And he actually sent a letter to the theater, and they read it out loud to us, where he said he appreciated everybody from Nashville being there, and that he really wished he could. So he was definitely one of those ones that I love to follow his work as well. So
Uh,
definitely those over the years.
what five actors, female or male? What five actors would you like to do a scene with?
Uh, if we're going with living, even though he's gone a little bit more eccentric now, Jim Carrey's always just, I learned his comedy was always my favorite. Michael Keaton for sure, 100%. I've loved everything he's ever done, whether he's done, drama pieces or comedy, but Michael Keaton's definitely up there. He's got a very wide range. Jack Nicholson was always fun. Shirley MacLaine was always a definite fun one as well. Who else? Who else? Who else? This is where it gets tricky now. About to do one with Robert Lasardo, so he's on there.
Yeah. Robert
There's
Lasardo is
another
a great actor. I'm glad you mentioned him.
Colin Mockery from Whose Line It Anyways, because I just always loved the way he could make people crack up over the silly thing and still have like a perfect straight face when he delivered his lines.
Right, right. Yeah, he is. That's a pretty fun show. That show's still going on too.
Yeah.
So what is coming next? What's coming up next for you, both as far as acting and as writing? You mentioned you're in the fourth book. How far along are you, and do you have any plans on finishing it during the summer? And you're also
Yes.
and
I am doing edits on 2 books that are supposed to be done by the summer. Holiday Chaos, I'm pushing to have it completed because the script version of it was done months ago. And I actually had started the book originally years ago, but took a break from it when Microsoft deleted 50 pages during an update. So I took a major break from it. And I finally, after I wrote the script version, I was like, okay, fine. I'm like, I'll go back and finally complete it. So we're going to have that pushed out. There's a couple of scripts I'm working on right now, wrapping up 2 Christmas ones that are Hallmark style. And of course, we have another horror one that I'm starting to push through where it's an anthology mix. Because we did Unnerving years ago, and I'm bringing that back as well, which is also a book version that I'm trying to get done. Life Retold, which is another one I'm hoping to have done by the end of the year. But since we have now, because I have stuff in between for the agent that I do, then I have other stuff that I do on top of it, plus our project that's coming out, and then I've got the voice for Killer Pizza I'm about to do, so that's going to be interesting. And there was another one that's supposedly in October.
Is that really going to be about a killer pizza?
Yep. It's one of those fun little horror films, where it's like you got to have fun with them.
Have you ever seen Attack of the Killer Dodos? Or the Killer Donuts?
I think so. I know I saw Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I saw the one about Attack of the Killer Llama and Killer Couch. Killer Bunny.
Yep. Slacks. That's another one. But Attack of the Killer Donuts, that has C. Thomas Howell in it.
Yep. Velocipaster. I've seen that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Velocipaster rocks.
It does, but it's just when you see the legs coming out of the dinosaur costume every time, you're just like, no.
Yeah, but that was
nailed everything else.
It was supposed to be that way. That Brendan Steer played it like that.
It was fun though.
Oh, I love that movie. He's taken so long though for it to come out with another one that I'm afraid that when it does come out, it's going to be dead.
He's got a good question there. Ouch. Yeah. Rule when it comes to looking at your scene partner on camera, looking from one of your co-stars' eyes to the other, just looking at their eyes or forehead. It's a mix. For me, it is extremely hard to look into their eyes, especially if I don't know the person, it's first time up, and I'm not hidden behind a computer, or if they also have ice blue eyes. I don't know why, but the blue eyes just knock me off my feet where I'm just like frozen, like, I can't look.
That's actually common.
Chapped lips, yeah, those will get you every time. I've worked with a couple of people over and over where I can look at them in the eyes now. It's just because the social anxiety makes it hard. And a lot of people think that, when I'm bubbly and everything, and when I get talking like crazy, they're like, you're not shy. I'm like, oh, yes, I am. I'm like, when I go into my quiet modes, I'm like, that's me. I'm like, if I'm at a party and I don't know anybody, I'm over by the food table, shoving food in my mouth. So that way, if you try to ask me anything, I'm just like, it's pointing to the food in the mouth so I don't have to speak. But for the eyes and stuff, I try not to look at them directly unless the scene calls for it, because if the camera catches you looking way far off in the distance and you're not looking at a certain mark, the audience will see it. To get used to it, there are times where I'll rehearse with a person and I'm like, it's going to take me a minute. I said, but let me stare like next to you and let my eyes work my way over until I can stare you down. And one of my scene partners coming up, we're going to make a fun game of just probably moving little stickers around to see if the other person can catch it. But yeah, definitely look into their eyes is not easy. You try to look slightly off, but you got to just remember where that camera is. And if they're chapped lips, oh yeah. That's one of the biggest things. Two big rules if you ever work with somebody in a scene project, especially if you're kiss scenes: chapstick and mints left and right. That's one of the biggest things.
Right, right.
I've done that where we had a kiss scene that we had to do, I think, 20 takes because they did so many different angles. And between every take, somebody was bringing chapstick over to all of us left and right and water. And that's just back to back. But yeah, if they're poor lips and you're staring at them, you're just like, well, happens to the best of us. And you just, you just,
Is that the dry lip thing? Is that because of the both nervousness and also the light of the camera, the lighting is also does this part of drying out your development?
probably because you can roast under lights. I've been under some where I was just dying and they're coming over, or you're pulling hidden tissues out of your pockets and you're just like this. You're just like, I'm good. They're like, you okay? You're like, like,
Hmm.
I'm good.
Hurry up with another cake, Kubrick. Let's
Oh
see.
God, I think the most takes I ever suffered through was 40 takes. I like 3 takes and you're done. That is my favorite rule. I saw one
Jen says
about.
she wants to be a werewolf. She wants to be in a werewolf movie.
Oh, those
Uh,
are fun. Those are fun. Movie
see,
from
do you
top 4
know the
genres.
artist
Ooh, one
Pete
for movie top genre.
Dorian? You love her stuff. She loves Killer Clowns, and her shop is amazing. And have you played the Killer Clowns game?
I heard it's either coming out or it just came out, and I've been dying to try it.
Do
I
clowns
definitely
scare?
have.
Do clowns scare you? I mean,
Not really,
yeah.
but I would prefer to have like the random clown toy staring at me, technically. Although I have a Ronald McDonald clown from the 1970s that sits on a shelf because I'm really big into vintage and antique toys. And I admit he's kind of creepy, so I try not to look at him. But I think for fun, I would love to get a killer clown from outer space, put him in my backyard, so stairs across at the neighbor's yard through the creek bed, and just see what happens if they ever notice it just staring with the glowing eyes. I think that'd be a fun one to try.
I think they probably get scared after a while, and in Alabama they probably end up shooting it. Uh,
We're in a pretty calm neighborhood. Our neighborhood is mostly retired people, so if they do, I'd be
I
really
don't know.
concerned.
That'd even be more reason why they shoot it. Um, let's see. Let's see.
Movie from top 4
Yeah,
genres.
we,
Horror would have been. There's too many horror films for me because I love The Abandoned. I love Mirrors. Those are two of my main ones, of course. American Werewolf in London. If we're going comedy, Liar Liar was one of the earlier comedies that I loved.
good
And
one.
then there were some from the 1980s, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
That's a good one.
because some of the delivery. Rom-com, if we're going straight romance, The Mirror Has Two Faces. That was an interesting one with Jeff Bridges. That was I like that romance movie because it had just an endearing, sweet take of how they looked at different perspectives. If we're going full-blown drama, drama, that is a toughie. Action, I still can't help it, but those 1970s action flicks are probably top dog. And of course, Backdraft from the 90s. Now, if you want a mix of that's supposed to be drama, but it's kind of came more of comedy, would be Mommy Dearest, because I couldn't help it. It's just the way
Yeah.
it came off. You just have to watch it. And that one of my first scenes for practicing auditions, I picked a scene from that. I picked the wire hanger scene. And
That's
that
funny
was
you
one of my
mentioned that.
earliest.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was watching Faye Dunaway. They had a clip on her she was doing a PSA, and as she was doing that, she's concentrated on her line, and finally she says, she says to somebody, she looks to the side, says, "You, can you please leave? You're on my sight line." I mean, and that was interesting. Like,
That does get us sometimes. Like if you have something that's sneaking onto a set, or if you're on a photo shoot or film and you just see out of the corner of your eye, something moving that's not supposed to, or someone's doing something distracting, you're trying not to break the concentration, and sometimes you can't help it. Like I've broken character before. Like somebody would
yeah,
do something off bat and they're waving around like crazy trying to get us to break, and you're just like, I hate
oh,
you.
that's not right.
Now I know one of the crazy things that happened for us on one, we had like a dog that came in on set before. I couldn't help it. I saw a dog and I was like,
Hmm.
dog. I was done. We did another project for A&E where they forgot to tell the owner of the gas station that we stopped at because we were traveling for scenes. that we were not real prisoners and we were in the jumpsuits, still wearing our shackles and, walking very carefully, me and my screen partner. They panicked trying to call the cops, thinking we had escaped the prison.
Oh,
So that
geez.
was a little distracting. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Famke Janssen. Yeah, she's definitely really good. Now, have you watched the original Haunted Hill movie? That one was like
Uh,
1959? Because I see they
59
have the
with
question.
Vincent
They
Price
were
and
mentioning about the original.
Richard
Oh,
Richard
Vincent
Long,
Price.
Richard Long,
Vincent,
and
Vincent
Carol
Price
Olmart.
is definitely a fun one. Anything John Candy too was also Planes, Trains, Automobiles was top dog comedy. That was for that genre that I was saying about comedy
Yeah.
was the other one. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I would say that one and also Cool Runnings were probably my two favorite John Candy movies. Great movies.
Nothing but Trouble. That was a fun one to watch and play multiple characters.
Jensen,
Eldona. He played Eldona.
Femme Jensen, Famke Jensen, best femme fatale. You haven't seen Nicole Butler yet. She could do femme fatale. She just needs to do it. I'm telling you, and make sure she sees this. I still want to see it happen. Listen,
I think she could definitely pull it off.
I think so too. I think so too. I've told her that. I told her that before. Says, oh, I so believe you. And you as a femme fatale, she's got the personality for it. She really does. Oh no, I
I've
couldn't
been
do
told
that. I
it's the
couldn't do. Oh,
potential of the character for me.
I'm going like, oh no, you be an excellent femme fatale. You'd be a great, like a bandit leader, or because she says that she got stuck playing like law enforcement. I'm going like, oh no, I don't see you as law enforcement. I see you as like the brains behind the brains. The like a James Bond henchwoman. Like or
Yep,
your yeah.
the action quick one where it
She
turns
could
out
pull.
she's the crazy person behind it all. I think she could definitely
Mhm.
do that.
Me too. Me too. She's got a lot of skills. And she's gotten better as she's gone on. I don't know if it's just confidence or what, but yeah. Do you get people to talk? Do you ever get young actors coming to you and sit there what they have a bout of self confidence? And how about yourself? Have you ever had you ever had an encounter where you did lose some of your confidence? And if so, what did you do to get it back?
There are times and I know the hardest ones for me personally, and some people laugh, but a lot of my confidence drops in kiss scenes, because it's like everyone's got to see how you kiss, and you also are hoping it's not horrible. So the confidence definitely drops in those big time. Whenever I've had to try to kill in certain ways, those ones can. But the way to bring them back is you have to force yourself to really go back into those characters, and you try to remember everything you've ever done in class or in another project, going like, well, or like, what is the audience seeing? If they see it this way, how are they going to perceive it? Or you'd be like, okay, you have another take. That means you can up the character. Your first attempt was then your practice run is what you try to tell yourself. This is your practice run. Let's go again. Do it again. Because you'll have like a certain amount of takes that they're good with giving. Now, if you start going 30, 40 takes and it wasn't the director's order for that many, then yeah, there could be a problem there. But as long as I remember that it's a character, that's where I can bring it back. And I just try to put myself in what is the audience seeing? What are they going to see from me of what am I doing? And part of my rule, and I'm one of those actors that will watch ourselves in our project a couple of times and that's it, because we're just like, all right, we saw it. We don't want to jinx ourselves. It's just an old superstition for a lot of us. But we at least we'll see it a few times. So we'll be like, okay, this is where I was good. This is where I was bad. Or you're like, yes, my best role to date. And that you want to support the other actors and watch it too, because the others you worked with are in there. So you want to see how everything went.
Right. That makes sense. I am looking, and I think we have hit our mark. So I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and call it right here. I definitely want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us and talking with us about your process and about your writing. Thoroughly enjoyed you. I'm glad Nicole sent you our way. Absolutely a blast. And can't wait to see some of your work. And I really want to see I really want to see the marriage bites. That looks to be very, very cute.
It's going to be fun. We've got stunts that are going to be going in. So we have a stunt coordinator coming on board. And Joe, he's done like 20 years of gymnastics, and I'm in gymnastics right now. So with our stunt training gymnastics, we're able to get through a lot of the interesting stunts. And it's going to be fun because it's got a lot of comedy in it.
It's a great looking cast. I'm looking at it right now. Of course, you have Robert Latordo. We have Nicole, Sean, Kevin Duffy,
Yep.
Zachary Vasquez, Hope Taylor. You also have Angela Russell Moore, and a whole slew. Oh, Lisa Bagby there. I know who Lisa. I know
Yep.
Lisa.
And Joseph Bakken, that's also Pongo Joe the Demon Clown. If you ever look him up, he's really big on Demon Clown side.
That's going to be a lot of fun, and that will be going into shooting in. Did you say October or November?
We start very early November and we'll go into early December. We'll shoot the first half in North Alabama, and then the second half will be at Thunderdome Studios where they did The Walking Dead. So that's where we take the final batch to.
Okay. All right. Well, that would be awesome. That'll be a lot of fun. I have all your socials down below. You can go down. You can go down there and check out Ashley's. I also put the link in. I put the link in the chat itself. Before
and
I
thank
let
you
you
everybody
go,
for the questions.
Huh?
I was saying thank you to everybody for the questions.
Oh yes.
I'm getting better at reading them off a stream. I've been slowly getting better at that. So forgive me if I'm going like, wait a minute, what?
No, you're doing good. You're doing good. Real quick before I go, let me show you what's coming up next week on the channel. As we head into a new month. So next week, here's the schedule. Gosh, this is actually the last show of the month, isn't it? It is. So I'll be back here next Tuesday. I'll be back here next Tuesday. We have a double header on Tuesday. We will be talking with our good friend Jeff from 101 Bronson. He'll be here at 2:00. He and I will be talking 90 action movies. We'll also be talking Western movies. He's got an excellent collection and a great love of cinema. He is a huge Charles Bronson fan. That's hence his name, 101 Bronson. That will be at 2:00 Eastern time. 2:00 Eastern time, and then at our regular time, I'll be joined by the Friendly Men. If they can read their clocks right, I will be joined by the Friendly Men as we will be interviewing our friend Joe from Concrete View, and he'll be here and we'll be talking all things metal at Tuesday at 8:00. Next Wednesday, we have actress Melissa. Let me see if I can say this right. Sapenzia. Melissa Sapenzia will be here. We won't be
better
here.
Than me. I'm terrible with names.
I know. We'll be dark on July 4th. We won't be having a show on July 4th, but July 5th, Friday, we'll be talking with Australian actress Gemma, and that will be at 8:00 as well. And she is a powerhouse, and I can't wait to talk to her. First time we've been down to Australia in well over a year, and I'm looking forward to talking to Gemma on the 5th. I want to thank you for hanging out with us again. Stay right where you are just for a minute. I want to say goodnight to the chat. Thank you so much for showing up and for the engagement. Yeah, and hopefully we will see you next Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. All right, that's it for us. Take care and peace.